Wendy O. Hey. Anybody watching this? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Just wait for a few more people to jump on board here, but if you want to say anything, chat's open. Got any questions? Ask away. So first time for me doing a live stream. For those of you that don't know, and I'm sure those of you watching do know, my name is Dan. I started a YouTube channel in 2015 called Not So Silent. This is actually my backup channel. And I live in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. And in 2015, I was falsely arrested and I was criminally charged. And that's when I started my YouTube channel, because I knew that what the police were doing was completely bogus. And I wasn't being arrested or charged because I committed a criminal offense. I was being arrested and charged because I hurt a police officer's feelings. And so, knowing what I know, uh, and if you don't know that, you'll see later. Um, I knew that this would be easy to defend myself in criminal court and win without even having a lawyer. The charge and the allegations were so bad, and that's when I started my YouTube channel in late 2015. And since then, I've become, or I was pretty active making YouTube videos. I basically became a police and justice system critic, or accountability critic, I should say. And I found out very quick that the more you get into this, the little digging that you do, you start finding a lot of dirt on what's going on with our local government agencies. Um, and so I started reading things like the Police Act and Criminal Code and all that stuff. And I understood it pretty quickly, because one of the things that I was sort of already into at that time was my main hobby before I got into this police and justice system accountability critic thing was I was into fishing. And fishing, you got to know all the rules and the regulations. Hey, she who talks to the wind, and I'm doing good. How are you? Hey, extortion watchers. I love that name, extortion watchers. So, anyways, my main hobby before this was fishing, and so I had to get into um, the rules and the regulations of fishing. And sometimes when you get into these things in life, they're not very plainly set out. And one of the things I noticed when I started fishing before I got into rules and regulations was I just didn't know the rules and regulations. So I just go out and fishing and do whatever I thought I should do or could do. And sometimes I'd ask other people that are fishing, what the rules are for something. And I found out that if you asked 5 people the same question, you probably get about 3 different answers. And that's when I started taking the rules and regulations of fishing seriously, and I started to read them and understand them for myself, so that I didn't need to ask anyone what the rules were. Because as I said, the more people you ask, the more different answers you get. And as we all know, knowledge is power. So um, that's just what I started doing, was just going through all the fishing regulations, and like I said, not only reading them but understanding them. And I want to emphasize that there's a difference between reading something and understanding something. And a lot of people that I talk to now about fishing, um, they think they know the rules, but they don't. So it's just kind of funny how people read things and just kind of assume that they understand what they're reading, and it's just not always the case. Excuse me. So that's just one of the things that uh, kind of prepared me. I kind of came into this somewhat prepared, this whole justice, police and justice system accountability critic thing, because I'd already kind of, you know, read and memorized and understood, the fishing regulations, and hey everybody, hey. Um, so as I said, when I first came into this, I kind of understood, how to read things and understand them when the government writes them, and so so as I'm reading things like the Police Act and the Criminal Code, um, hello, hi, uh, it I just caught onto it pretty quick when I started reading things, and really getting into like the complaints process for municipal police here. Um, I started making videos on that in early 2016, and that wasn't something that I even planned on or even thought of making videos about, because I just assumed that they would take your complaints and handle them appropriately, and you'd likely be satisfied at the results. Well, that's not the case here. So, so that's kind of where it started for me, and just kind of why I picked up on this so quick and got into it and just started making videos. Like I said, I never intended to make videos about the police complaint process or uh, anything after that. Really, I just wanted to. I originally started this just to expose the false arrest and the false charges that I faced in 2015. I didn't actually plan on doing anything after that. And the more it went along, and the more I got involved, and the more I started calling BS, it just kind of snowballed into what it is now. And um, it, mind you, I've been shut down pretty much since 2018. There's not really much I've been able to publish. So yeah, I'm just gonna have a look at the chats here. It's hard to read chats and talk and look at a camera at the same time. So, hey, Jeesley Crow Blackbird, thanks for tuning in. Glad you can make it. Hope it's not freezing. You guys hear me okay? Am I too quiet or too loud or too annoying? So, so what? This is kind of I've had to be silent about my arrest from 2018. Yeah, thanks, Sarah T. I've had to really, I've had to basically shut down my channel for almost 2 years now, um, because I was arrested in July 2018, and all of my cameras and my cell phone were seized without a warrant for public photography, and I was facing some criminal charges. I'm sure you guys are aware, but I'll just say this for anyone that might just be tuning in, maybe they're not aware. I do not live in the United States of America. I live in British Columbia, Canada. So when uh, when I first started my YouTube channel, Not So Silent, to expose my dealings with the police in 2015, as I said, I didn't really see it going beyond that, and it certainly has gone beyond that, and it'll continue to go beyond that apparently. But in 2017, 2006, sorry, in 2016, I put out a 7-part series on my YouTube channel about some local prosecutors here that use our justice system to retaliate against me. I basically made fools of them in court, and they decided to have me held in prison. They decided to mislead judges to have me held in prison until I was ultimately forced to plead guilty to an offense. It wasn't really an offense. It was breaching bail conditions, which I never should have been on to begin with. So I was forced to plead guilty to that. Otherwise, they would have just held me in prison for years, and I had no criminal record, nothing like that. So a lot of people were commenting on my YouTube channel and messaging me. There's a local guy here. You guys have probably heard of him, Donald Smith. He has a channel called News Now Independent Media Canada, or yeah, News Now News. Yeah, anyways, something like that. It's very long, and he was always like trying to get me in to do these First Amendment audits, and I'd already been watching First Amendment audits for a few years. Basically, when I started my YouTube channel, I started watching First Amendment audits. And I thought they were great videos to watch, but it was never something that I actually wanted to do. I never wanted to get into them just because I was so involved with inside the justice system, really, and the police complaints process. I was already so far into that that the whole public photography thing didn't really appeal to me. Plus, I was already out there doing my own public photography, and no one really bothered me about it. I go into police stations and into government buildings, and if I had some sort of document to serve or drop off or something to pick up, I always filmed it, and there was never really an issue about it. So Donald Smith was always like, "Yeah, you got to get into audits. Let's go auditing together." And I always thought like it's just kind of weird that he calls it audits because in the United States, it's called a First Amendment audit. But everybody in Canada that started kind of doing them years ago, pre 2018, they just called it audits. And I just thought it was kind of weird. Like you're not really saying you're not really describing what you're doing. Like if you're in Canada, obviously you don't have a First Amendment right to do anything. You have other rights. You have other Canadian rights, but those are somewhat different. So I just noticed this kind of trend happening of everybody in Canada just calling it an audit. and nothing else. And I thought, that's just weird. They like someone should come up with like a term or a phrase that um, strictly is for the Canadian version of a First Amendment audit. Like, don't even use the word audit in it. Like, completely separate it. And I always thought, well, someone will do it sometime. Um, and a couple years went by, and nobody. It was really just like Donald Smith and like a few other people in Canada that didn't really have like a built up channel. They didn't really get into it to the point where they could establish themselves as someone who does audits in Canada. Um, there are some channels now, and all of those channels in Canada, those all came after my arrest. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So, anyways, get back to what I was originally talking about. So, I always expected somebody else in Canada to come out and do sort of like a how-to audit in Canada for First Amendment, like a First Amendment version of this in Canada. And nobody did. I was just like, wow. And it got to the point where I was like, well, maybe I should be the one to do it. No one else is doing it. There's nobody. There was no when I was considering doing it. It was back in 2017, and there was no Calgary 360 audits. There was no Canadian Rights Media. There's a few other channels doing it right now in Canada. None of them were around when I was considering um, sort of getting into it and putting out information about the differences in doing it in Canada as opposed to the United States of America. And in late 2017, I kind of made a decision that I was going to do it, and that I was going to take my time with it. There was no rush because, like I said, there was nobody in Canada that had like a real established channel that did just that. Not that I know of, anyways. um, so I decided that in summer 2018, part of my vacation from work, that I was going to put some material together and kind of do my own research. And I basically wanted to um, build up something, some information, some material that Canadians could take and use that. Because one thing I kind of assumed what would happen was that people in Canada would watch First Amendment audits and try it in Canada without doing their due diligence and research, and just basically copying what people in the United States say. And that's kind of what happened, because I noticed like I won't I won't name names, but I kind of noticed some Canadian guys that were kind of testing the waters. They weren't established. I won't, like I said, I won't say who. They were using American terminology in Canada when they were doing this. I thought, well, that's not right. You don't say that in Canada. You say this. And the few people that were doing it were getting all the lingo wrong. And the police officers that they were talking to were like, we don't have that in Canada. That's in the States. And they still didn't get it. And so that was one of the things that I kind of feared was going to happen in Canada, is it was going to catch on but it was going to catch on with people that were putting out wrong information or bad information or inaccurate information. They were going to, they were, I kind of foresaw that in Canada it was going to catch on, and people were saying things that pertains to American rights and American laws, not Canadian rights and not Canadian laws. And so, as I said, in late 2017, I decided that I was going to put my own material together, and I was going to basically unlearn what I had learned by watching First Amendment audits, and I wasn't going to rely on anything uh, related to First Amendment audits. I was going to build it from the bottom up, strictly on Canadian material and Canadian information laws, rights, freedoms, and all that. And what I was going to do was basically put that material together in a audio recording and publish that on YouTube and say, here's how you can do it in Canada. Here's what you shouldn't do in Canada. Yada, 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 all this stuff. A big, long, boring video that probably no one's going to watch. And then what I had planned to do after that was sort of my own series of a First Amendment audit in Canada. And I'd come up with a number of 10. So I was going to do a series of 10 places where I was going to go and do a audit. Um, Now I know there's a lot of people that have First Amendment audit channels. They've had them for years, and they still have them, and they still put out a lot of content. That would never work for me here. I live on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. It's a relatively small community, and I'm already very well known to police, not as a criminal, but as someone who has a voice. So you should see the bulletins on me. And some of the police files. I'll get into those later. But so I'm very limited as to what I can do. And as I said before, I never wanted to, I never started my YouTube channels with the intention of doing sort of a First Amendment audit style thing in Canada. But I eventually decided to put out some material to help people start doing it themselves. And so I wanted to do that information, put out that material for other people to use, and then I was going to do a 10-part series where I go and audit 10 police stations or somewhere that's a similar to a police station. Excuse me. I'm just going to read some comments because there's a whole bunch here and I haven't read any. So yeah, moose on a mouse. The 2B audit. Yeah, that's definitely more accurate. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue as well as First Amendment audit, but yeah, that's basically um, a 2B audit. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Because in Canada we don't have a First Amendment. We have a or well, we don't have the amendments. We have a charter, um, and Section 2 of the charter has um, some of our fundamental freedoms, and that's the 2B that he's referring to is the I don't have it in front of me, but it's basically the First Amendment in the States. It's very similar. Um, but as I said, I put together some material. I was going to publish it in it was actually this all this stuff that I got arrested for just recently in 2018. I was actually going to publish it the following month, and just decided to hold off on it all because I'll get into that later. But yeah, the Section 2B is basically the Canadian version of the First Amendment. but no one's really put out, as I said, a sort of like a name for it or a phrase like First Amendment audit. And that's one thing that one of the things that I've put together in the material that I wrote and recorded in 2018 and was supposed to publish in 2018, and I've just got the cameras and cell phone back just 2 days ago. So I got a lot to go through. And oh yeah, I was reading comments, but yeah, he's right. It's Section 2B is basically what the American First Amendment is. Cool. Thanks for your comment, Robert Morin. You should. It'd be interesting if you could put that together, gather all the material and put that together and publish that on YouTube. I'd be very interested in seeing that. So, she who talks to the wind, Anne, you said you tried looking up stuff for Canada. I haven't come across much really. Well, I got good news for you. I have a lot of material that I'm going to publish on that over the next couple of months. Material that I was supposed to, I originally planned on publishing it in August 2018, but never had the opportunity to do so. So that material that you've been looking for, I have it, and I'm going to be publishing that relatively soon. Not this week, not next week, probably not the week after. Probably going to take at least a month before I actually put anything out there. I'm just going to jump on the comments here again. Freedom of expression, yeah, fundamental freedom test. That's basically, yeah, that's a, you could basically call it that, a fundamental freedom test. It's not what I came up with, but that works just the same as what I came up with, which I'm not gonna. This is gonna be kind of a no spoilers live stream. I don't want to kind of put all my information out there on this live stream. I've waited so long to put it together and publish it as I originally planned, and that's what I want to do. Is I want to just kind of give you guys a heads up on what happened and what's coming over the next couple of months, and throughout the rest of the year, probably into next year. And gosh, I don't know how long this is going to go on for, but it's at the point where I can start publishing material. Excuse me. I'm at the point where I can start publishing my material, but this is far from over. It's still ongoing even right now, and it's going to be ongoing for a while. And for those of you that know how it all works, you probably know what that means, but I'll get into that later. Yes, I am going to be putting up those videos. Yeah, like I said, I wanted to publish them. I wanted to start publishing them in August 2018, and once I got arrested and charged, I was like, well, I ain't putting that out there. You guys have probably heard the saying, "Clicks and views can wait." Yeah, exactly. Clicks and views can wait. If you ever get arrested or charged with any of this nonsense, clicks and views can wait. That's definitely your best bet, best way to go for sure. That is solid advice, and I knew that in 2018. So yeah. So it's the material is going to be published. It's you're probably going to see it over the course of this summer, because it's going to take me a while. I've been on YouTube, not necessarily doing this, but I've been on YouTube in general since 2010, and I like putting together quality videos. I don't like just recording something and then just uploading that clip. I like to kind of make it a big something that's um, something that's going to hold your attention and something you can kind of look back and go, "Hey, I really want to watch that again." Those are the kind of style videos that I like to make. Um, it's similar to like one of the guys that I started watching First Amendment audits back when I first started watching them is a guy named Brett Sanders. He doesn't do them anymore, but he has a good example of the videos that are similar to the ones that I like to make. He's got a video where I forget the title, but it's something like a banking cartel confronts a photographer or something. And if you watch that video, that's similar to the style of videos that I make. Um, so it's going to take a while until I actually um, have something to publish. But once we're on a roll, it's just going to kind of keep coming. So yeah, I will be publishing that material. So getting back to sort of what I planned on my plans for summer 2018. I was originally going to publish sort of like a how-to First Amendment audit style, similar thing in Canada. And once that was published, I was going to do, I was going to go to 10 places and do like something that's similar to a First Amendment audit. Not the same, but similar. Something that's really based on Canadian rights, freedoms, and laws. And it's not at all based on the First Amendment audit. Um, and as I said earlier, I'm on a relatively small island, Vancouver Island, and I'm extremely well known to police, not for being a criminal, but for having a voice. There's the bulletins about me are just insane. False narratives. So, as I said earlier, First Amendment auditing was something that I never started my channel for. I never really I liked watching them, but I never wanted to do them. And I was encouraged to sort of be um, the guy that kind of put the material out there back in 2018. And so I wanted to do with the limitations of living on an island and being well known to police. I I just wanted to do like 10 places. Like I was going to do like a video series of me going to 10 places, which were basically all police stations, and doing like a First Amendment audit style thing, but not the same. And I I basically knew that I was going to get arrested because I know how things work here. And I knew that because I know how things work here, I knew that somebody would be dumb enough to arrest me. And I found that guy. So again, this is a no spoiler audit, but I will give you a little heads up. That 10-part series where I go to 10 places and do a First Amendment audit style thing in Canada, I didn't get to 10. Didn't make it to 10. I won't tell you how many we made. I did have a backup cameraman. He's an associate of mine. He's also got some YouTube. He's also got lots of YouTube videos on police and accountability. Um, you can see actually, if you go through my videos, you'll see he's in my videos. His name's Bruce Dean, professional recreationalist. Um, but so I tried to bring him for backup cameraman for just about everyone. He's got a lot of health issues. He used to be in search and rescue, and he absolutely destroyed both of his knees, saving a woman's life. He's been battling cancer. He's a two-time cancer survivor. Um, yeah, he's he's a great guy. He's supported me all the way through this when basically nobody else would, and or could. I shouldn't say that. um, so um, yeah, so we we went out. Like I said, I tried to have a backup cameraman with me at all times, but he couldn't make it for everyone just due to his own health issues. He couldn't. He's permanently disabled, two-time cancer survivor. He was actually just coming out of surgery for cancer. He was on cancer meds when we were doing this, so he couldn't come out every time. But as I said, I wanted to put together a 10-part series and didn't make it to 10. I won't spoil it for you. I won't tell you which number or how many we got to. You're gonna find that out. I'm gonna basically put it out as I intended it to put it out, but you're gonna see how it ended, and you're gonna see it as I intended you to see it back in 2018. I'm not gonna spoil anything here. I've waited this long. Uh, it'd be foolish for me to put out spoilers now. So that's kind of how that's kind of in the state we're in now in Canada. Um, and I think it's even more important that I put this material out now because of what happened to me. I just wanted to put this material out just to help other people do it safely and not get themselves in trouble because they only are watching people do it in the States and repeating everything they say. Not It's not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, so can't advise you legally on anything. But I can certainly put together information and material and share that. Uh, and that's what I've decided to do, and that's what I'll be doing over the course of the summer is sharing that material with you. So if you're in Canada and you want to do something that's similar to a First Amendment audit, you'll be able to do that safely, and you'll have the knowledge of what you need to know to do it in Canada. Just keep in mind it's not the same as a First Amendment audit. So if you only want to do this to bark orders at police, or if you only want to do this because you hate the police, or if you only want to do this because you want to, not because you have to. See, I don't make these videos because I want to. I make these videos because I have to. And I think some people make these videos for the wrong reasons. So when you see my material, you might think, that's not a First Amendment audit. Oh, well, no, it isn't. And you really shouldn't be doing a First Amendment audit in Canada. You should be doing a Canadian, something that's based on everything Canadian. And so that's the material that I'm going to put out. And like I said, I know already some people are going to be disappointed and go, oh, that's not a First Amendment audit. And as I said, you don't do that in Canada. There's things that you should do differently, and that may disappoint some people because some people, as I said, some people just want to bark orders at police and look really good for the camera. Um, the material that I have that people can take for themselves and have their and learn for themselves, it doesn't really go in that direction. Um, I'm kind of on the borderline of spoilers here, so maybe I'll just shut up about that right now. So, as I said, it was supposed to be a 10-part series. It never got to 10. We never made 10 episodes. I won't spoil how many we got to, but it's actually quite ironic if you think about it. I put together the material that was going to be published to help people in Canada do this safely so that they wouldn't get arrested and they wouldn't get criminally charged. And then I ended up getting arrested and criminally charged. And I ended up getting prosecuted, had all of my cameras and my cell phone seized, just got them back last week from July 2018. And I'm the I'm the smart, informed guy that's going to teach you how to do it in Canada. Great. So it's just kind of ironic that that's the material that I want to put out, so you don't get arrested, and so you don't get criminally charged. But you're going to see me get arrested, and you're going to see me get criminally charged, and all my cameras and cell phones seized. And so basically, what I did is I documented the entire process as best as I could. Um, One thing that I notice, like I have a lot of videos on this channel, where this channel is very popular, sort of in the States, and a lot of people comment on my videos on this channel, and they what's this? Oh, they oh, I forgot what I was going to say there. You know what? I'm going to jump on the chat here because there's a ton of comments here I haven't read yet. Mm-hmm. Interesting stuff there. Yeah. Um, and guys, check out one of the guys in the chat there, Photo Warrior Fundamental Freedom Evaluations. That's my friend Bruce that I was talking about. Go subscribe to his channel if you don't mind. Um, so as I was saying earlier, I've documented the entire process of getting arrested and criminally charged for this whole public photography thing. And in it's oh yeah, I was saying that some of my videos on this channel, I get a lot of comments from people in the States that say, well, this video is bogus. Why don't you just post the video from the courtroom video, or the audio? Because a lot of times I don't. Well, a lot of times all I have is a transcript, like someone's typed out the audio from the court proceeding, and I don't have any audio and I don't have any video. And people in the States see that on my YouTube channel and my videos, and they flip out. And I'm like, well, if I was in the United States of America, I could do that, but I'm not. I'm in Canada. And in Canada, you don't get access to courtroom video. They don't give it out to anyone. Well, they might give it out to some members of the accredited media for very limited cases. But when you're someone like me, they don't give you the courtroom video. You can't FOIA request it or anything. And they don't give you the audio. The only thing that I can get from my criminal prosecution is a transcript. And I have to pay big bucks for that. It's about for about 10, I'd say for about 10 to 15 minutes in court, a transcript is going to cost you about $100. So if you've got uh, an hour in court and you want to publish that, you have to pay for a transcript, and that's about 300, 350. about $300 for, say, under an hour in court. So if you've got an entire day in court, like 5 hours, like an entire day, right? What's that, like $1,000 or something? The only other alternative is that if you're the accused, which of course I was, you can schedule with the court to you have the opportunity to listen to the audio recording of the court hearing, and you can take notes, but you can't record that and you can't publish that, but you can take notes and publish that. So a lot of people that watch my videos and they live in the States, they always call me out on stuff like, oh, this video is so bogus. Oh, you can't serve a subpoena to someone. And it's like, well, yeah, that's how it works in the States, but that's not how it works here. And it's the same with all the stuff that I'm going to be publishing about my criminal prosecution. It's all going to be on transcripts. You're not going to hear the judge. You're not going to hear the prosecutor. You're not going to hear me. You're not going to see any video from the courtroom. All you're going to see is transcripts. And of course, I'll add my own audio. I'll do text to speech for the judge and the prosecutor and the court clerk, and I'll use my own voice um, for me, obviously, and which I've done in the past. As I said earlier, I've got a 7-part series out on some of the local prosecutors here that stepped in at big time with me, and that's all I had was I just had to screen cap um, the transcripts and then use text to speech. And a lot of people call me out on it, but I asked them, okay, can you get me the court video then? No response. So yeah, just gonna check out some comments here. Mm-hmm. I am near Duncan. It's about 45-minute drive, but I'm located in Victoria. You might see Duncan on my 10-part series coming out. Maybe. Just saying. No spoilers. Oh. So how's everybody doing in self-isolation or whatever it is? I have no idea about any of that stuff because am an essential worker and I work my ass off every day. For me, work has just been crazy since this whole thing, since I guess the middle of March, a month and a half now. So yeah, for me, the weekend is still a weekend, and just did a big hiking trip yesterday. Did some shore fishing out here on the coast of Vancouver Island. Thanks, Tongma. Right on. Me and my drone and I. Right on. Yeah, that's the thing is that our justice system relies on uh, fear and intimidation. And if they haul you in there because you hurt their feelings or whatever, if they didn't catch you stealing a car or selling drugs to kids or robbing little old ladies, and they drag you in there for some BS like this, um, as long as you know court procedure, it's relatively easy to represent yourself and win. It's not that hard at all. I've done it twice in the last 4 years. Hey, Lady Zaga. Yeah, great question. How did fascism survive in Canada? Yeah, and how does it thrive in Canada? So is anybody watching right now in Canada? Were you ever contemplating, or are you contemplating doing something that's like a First Amendment audit style thing in Canada? And if so, what part of Canada are you in? Hey, Oscar Orville. It's funny you say that. You just said if you're not afraid of them, they're certainly afraid of you. And yeah, I actually came up with a quote very similar to that. Um, I think I put on my Facebook page. My Facebook page is just not so silent. I believe it goes like this: when you lose your reasonable fear of the system becomes unreasonably fearful of you. And that's exactly what's happened to me. Is they will screw around with me, not for criminal activity, but for having a voice. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's do this. What do you got? Let's go to court. Let's do this. What you know? And you'll see. I don't want to spoil. I don't want to do spoilers here on this live stream, but you're gonna see how they treated me, and it's gonna be pretty obvious why they treated me like that. I even called them out for treating me in a certain way, and I'm glad I did. I called them out in writing, and almost 2 years later, it turns out I pretty much predicted that to a T. Pretty funny. Me, my drone, and I in Victoria. Oh yeah. Yep. Cool. Watching Lady Saga's in Tirana. It's too dangerous. Yeah. Um, that's a good point because I think, yeah, I think that's a really good point for Toronto. It would be too dangerous. It seems the bigger city, the more bigger your city, the more government buildings, the more politicians and important people you have. You pretty much nailed it there. It is going to be dangerous in a big city like that for sure. I mean, it could be dangerous in a small city where you don't have any of that too. Don't get me wrong, but more dangerous in Toronto, yeah, for sure. Any kind of big city, it's definitely going to be more dangerous. Hmm. Yeah, fear, exactly. Fear is the incorporated business of the government. If it's not fear, it's intimidation. Yeah, that's a good point there, Oscar Orville. Show no fear and watch how they treat you. Exactly. So, any questions? Just keep in mind this is a no spoilers live stream, so and I don't give legal advice. Um, Me, my drone, and I are going to be spilling the beans. So one of the first things, so I've got some things on my my main channel, Not So Silent, some videos that I need to finish up on that I haven't done like a conclusion on or whatever. So I'm going to be putting out some of that material, and then the sort of how to First Amendment audit in Canada audio information. Probably be putting that out in about a month, and then the 10-part series where an associate of mine did First Amendment style audits or similar to them in Canada, where we didn't make it to 10. Those will be coming out very shortly after that. How to audio video, and it's that series, that 10-part series, is going to come to an abrupt end. We don't make it to 10. It'll come to an abrupt end, and then you'll sort of be in the passenger seat with me as you and I, or myself and you, the viewer, I should say, basically go through the entire process of what they did to me after I was arrested and charged. And you'll basically go through it with me. Like every time I had to make a court appearance, we basically made like a little quick video about what the date was, why we were here, what we're there for. My cat's ripping up something. Hang on a sec. Sorry, cats. Oh, and now he's back to doing it again. Jeez, I might have to throw something at him. So, yeah, that's uh, that's when I'll be spilling the beans. Um, it's gonna start in about a month, and I'm gonna need some time to kind of spread it out. Um, as I said, I'm an essential worker, so I work full time. I'm super busy with work. Um, and my hobby before this was fishing, and the saltwater fishing season here literally just started yesterday, and it goes to the end of September. So I'm going to be very busy with work. I'm going to try to go fishing every weekend, and I'm going to try to make videos on this and related to this as much as possible. So it's definitely going to be a slow start, but once I start posting videos, it should come a little quicker every time, hopefully. Yeah, that's right, Lady Zaga. It's not very nice for me, but it's good information for the public. And that was my original goal was to put this information and material out before other people in Canada started doing this. And as I said earlier, um, I was arrested, had all my cameras seized and my cell phone seized, and I was criminally charged for this before anyone in Canada had like an actual established YouTube channel for doing this. So before Calgary 360 audits, before Canadian Rights Media, basically before anyone that's doing it now or has done it recently. With the exception of, as I said earlier, like Donald Smith was always doing this for years. Um, he's got a very different style. Um, he's got a very different approach than I would have. He's also got a very different style of doing videos. Um, and he's very limited as to his resources as well, which you got to take into consideration. So I have the ability to kind of sit back and make some uh, sort of edited videos and produce them a little, if you will. Where Donald Smith would typically take a video clip of a few minutes and just post that, and that's kind of not my style. I like to do something a little bit more involved. I've been making. I've been on YouTube since 2010, not necessarily just doing police and justice system accountability, but I've been on YouTube for I guess 10 years now almost. And for me, it's not just about recording a clip and putting it on YouTube. It's I like to kind of make it, um, as I said earlier, kind of in the style of what Brett Sanders used to do. Specifically, he's got a video called "Banking Cartel Confronts a Photographer," and if you watch that video, that's the style of video that I want to produce and publish. So uh, things won't, as I said, things won't happen fast. There's not going to be a video tomorrow. There's not going to be a video next week or in 2 weeks. It's probably going to be a month, and then things will start kind of snowballing from there. And I couldn't tell you how long it's going to last. I know, like right now, this is still ongoing. Like it's not over yet. The criminal proceeding's over, but there's still a lot more. The material that I'm going to be gathering and uh, publishing not only this year, but as I said, into next year, and who knows? I don't know. This could go on for years. So yeah, it's good information for the public, and as I said, I wrote, recorded, and had that material ready. It was originally supposed to be published in August 2018. And then once I got arrested and charged and all my stuff got seized, I couldn't make the videos because all my material was on my devices, or most of it. And I didn't want to give them a heads up on, what I was doing, or what it was about exactly. Yeah, don't stay away from the Javex, yo. Thank you for your essential service. Yeah. Yeah, no worries. Can you sue in Canada for wrongful arrest or malicious prosecution? If so, will you be suing the pricks? You're getting into spoiler material. Did did I just spoil it? You're getting into spoiler material there, Mad Grumpy Man. Um, as I said earlier, this live stream, I want to keep it no spoilers as much as possible. I want to publish my material as it was intended to be published, as you were intended to see it back in August 2018, and I've waited this long. I want to publish it still in that manner, so you're still going to see it as you should have seen it almost 2 years ago. So I don't want to give out too much information, but to answer your questions, can you sue in Canada for wrongful arrest or malicious prosecution? The answer is yes. I'll just leave it at that for now. And if so, will I be suing the pricks? Well, you'll find out. Yeah, so. Well, I wouldn't say I slam dunk kick their asses in court, but it definitely concluded in my favor. I'll go with that. And they might want, so yeah, they might just want to settle if they see you're serious about a lawsuit. So I won't comment on what's going on currently, if that's going on. But what I will say is, in the past, when I have sued the police, even when there's video evidence of what I'm suing for, um, they always deny the allegations, and they always want to go to trial, and they never want to settle. The only way they want to settle is if there was, like, for example, a couple years ago in Vancouver, there was a cop that was walking down the sidewalk with some other cops beside him, and a disabled woman was walking oncoming, and she almost walked into one of the cops accidentally. And the cop that she almost walked into, he just reached out and pushed her down to the ground. And the cops just all stood there and watched him do it. And they all just walked away. And a bystander had to help her up. And I don't know if she sued or what the conclusion to that was, but it was all over the news. And people were livid about it. So in a case like that, they might settle out of court if you sue. And I don't know if she sued or not, but those are really the only circumstances where they'd actually settle. They always deny the allegations, especially here where I live in the province of British Columbia. Um, they'll never admit to anything unless a judge actually finds in your favor, and even that's hard sometimes. Wow, lots in the chat. I'm just going to catch up on the chat here. That's a really good comment there, Oscar Orville. Record all interactions with any government officials, agents, and employees, which includes all police interactions. It may make the difference in your or someone else's life. That's a very, very good comment. The only thing I would add on to that is also have a dash cam running in your car. Um, if possible, have one shooting out the front windshield in a traditional manner that dash cameras work, and also have one or a second one that is also filming the interior of your vehicle, as it's basically filming you, the driver, if you're the driver. Um, I don't go anywhere now without a dash cam and something that is able to record me uh, inside my vehicle. And I stop at all the stop signs and all that stuff. So, uh, yeah, I'm a law-abiding citizen, so I have no problem filming myself not breaking the law. Mm, mhm. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. For the dash cam, the stamp for your speed of travel, um, you can do that with certain dash cams. If you have to have them hardwired to your what is it? It basically has to be hardwired to your car, uh, so that it gets the information from your car's computer about your speed. So there are dash cams that do that, but they have to be installed appropriately. That's not something that you can just walk out of the store and stick up on your windshield and and drive out of the store parking lot with it uh, displaying your speed, unless you know how to hardwire that in, and you can do it in the parking lot. I certainly can't, but yeah, that's definitely a good thing to have. Uh, and I know when I'm out, I just set cruise control. You know, if the speed limit's whatever, I'll just do the cruise control to a little under or a little over, usually a little under or close to it. Just depends on where it is, and it depends on the flow of traffic. Some of the highways I drive on here, if I'm doing the speed limit, people are just flying by me like I'm standing still. So doing, 5 over, not really a big deal. But generally, I don't do 5 over unless that's the flow of traffic and people are just flying by me and it's a nice bright sunny day, and it's you've got the most ideal driving conditions possible. Yeah, that's right. Me, my drone, and I, Canada, the entire country is one party consent for recording. So that's pretty self-explanatory. But what would be contrary to that, for example, things that wouldn't protect you under that is if you had a recording device recording either audio or video or both, and say you walked into an office building and you placed it down on a desk and you left that room completely, and there's people conversing and it's recording them conversing, and you're not part of that, you're not even in that room, and then you go to retrieve that and listen to that, that would be sort of contrary to the one party consent. So as long as the recording is always on your person, and you're not leaving something recording surreptitiously when you're not there and other people are and they're conversing, then that's sort of the how you can protect yourself there, is to just be part of that one party, and you'll be the party that consents. Pretty simple. But like for example, like I'll call the police department for something, and not for help, for like disclosure or whatever, something to do with going to court, and I always record that, always. Um, when they call my home phone and they leave a voicemail, they're being recorded, and they know it. So phone is never a problem as long as you're not recording someone else's phone calls, like your neighbor's phone calls or whatever. Yeah, GPS would definitely record your speed. That's a good point. Mad Grumpy Man. GPS will definitely record your speed, and it's relatively accurate. It's not, I wouldn't say it's 100% accurate 100% of the time, but it's generally accurate most of the time. So with this material that I put together about sort of like it's basically like a how to do First Amendment audit style thing in Canada. Um, that's it's material that I wanted to put out so that people don't get arrested and people don't get criminally charged. So, and like I said earlier, it's just funny that in doing so, I got arrested and I got charged. So that kind of gives you a real understanding of where we are in Canada on this. Um, we're it's not we're it's not good. It's not in Canada. It's not good. A lot of people say, well, oh, the cops in Canada are way better than the cops in the States. And that there is some truth to that, obviously, but um, you're chatting, watching a guy who got arrested, had cameras and a cell phone seized, and was criminally prosecuted for public photography on a public sidewalk that was in Canada, that was not based on a First Amendment audit. It was based on Canadian rights, freedoms, and laws. So that's the state that we're in Canada. So I sort of have a different mission now, because what I wanted to do originally was to put that material out to protect people that wanted to do it. But now I also want to put that material out to encourage other people to do it. That's one thing that I never necessarily wanted to do back in 2018 is I didn't want to encourage anyone to do it. If anything, as you spoilers. Okay, here a little spoiler. If anything, in my how-to audio video, I'm almost discouraging you from doing it because there's a lot of things that people don't consider when they consider going out and doing this. And that's one of the things that I feel is important now is I almost want to encourage you to get out and do it once you have the information that I'm putting out, because that's the state we're in Canada. Is I just got um, my camera's back, and I just concluded a criminal matter for doing this in Canada. So um, Canada needs some work with this. If people are getting arrested and their devices seized and they're put on bail conditions and they're criminally prosecuted by the police and prosecutors, then we're not in a very good state here in Canada as far as public photography goes. So that's sort of now on my mission, is to almost encourage people to do it, which, as I said, I wasn't. I in if I hadn't have gotten arrested, uh, and I did finish the 10-part series and I put that material out, spoiler alert, I am basically discouraging you from doing it. I'm giving you the information that you need to do it, but I'm also discouraging you from doing it because there's consequences for doing it. There's things will happen that you may not have considered, and there's serious consequences for your actions. And a lot of people just get into this and do this without considering those consequences for their actions. And that's what I really lay out in this sort of how-to video that's coming out, is what are the consequences for your actions? And I'm going to go through those. Excuse me. And I'm going to go through those, and you're going to see things that you may not have considered could happen to you. And I want you to consider those things before you do this. And because, as I said, what they just put me through, they could just as easily do to you. And me personally, I have no problem showing up to court, and I don't need a lawyer, and I don't need legal advice. I don't need to dress up nice for court. I don't need to look presentable. I can show up looking like a complete mess and represent myself in court and come out on top, as long as I haven't committed a crime. And for a lot of people, they can't do that because, as I said earlier, I think Tongma touched base on this earlier, was that the entire justice system here in Canada, or anywhere really, is based on fear and intimidation. And a lot of people can't just represent themselves. They can't just show up in court on a criminal matter and A, know what's going on, B, understand what's going on. Like most people don't understand court procedure. So that's one of the things that you need to consider. As I said, I'll put out in my video, my how-to video, is what are all the consequences for your actions? And have you considered those consequences? There's lots in the chat here. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's, interesting there, Oscar Orville. Um, yeah, independent media in Canada, um, I'm gonna go into spoiler territory here. Alright, hard to do a live stream with no spoilers. But yeah, I heard and read about that too, where, some independent media members were arrested on, criminal charges, and they beat them, and the judge schooled the cops for arresting them. Yeah. That's very true. Me, my drone, and I, who says the more people that get out there and do public photography, the more it will become accepted or tolerated. Um, I basically have a not a quote, but I basically came up with my own kind of terminology on that too, where and you basically hit the nail on the head. Accepted or tolerated. I call it normalized. Um, and I'll get into that with some of the videos that's coming out later. Is normalized. So it shouldn't have to be accepted or tolerated because it's already acceptable, right? It's already tolerable, um, but it's not necessarily normal. And that's one thing that we all need to do, whether you're in Canada or the States or the UK or Australia or wherever you live, is we need to get out there and make for public photography a normal thing, because right now uh, it's a bad thing, right? Who who would have a problem about being video recorded who's not doing anything wrong? You know, everywhere you go now, you're being video recorded. You know, nobody calls up City Hall and complains about how they're being recorded walking around the city doing their errands and shopping. But if you do it, uh, it's an issue. It's a bad thing. It's not normal. It's weird. So that's one thing we need to do is we need to make it normal again. Um, my father and my grandfather grew up in a time where in in a city environment there would be a photographer standing on the sidewalk waiting for couples to walk by, and he would snap a picture of them candidly. So they were like just walking along and they just looked at the photographer and he'd go snap and he'd take their picture and he'd sell them that picture. That was normal. That was normal for decades. And can you imagine trying to do that now? That's not normal. That's weird. So that's one thing we need to do is we need to get active with with public photography and make it normal again. That's a good one. Me, my drone, and I, who says, "Officer, am I lawfully required to answer your question?" And when he or she says yes, then your next question should be, "Officer, are you ignorant of the law or a liar? Which is it?" That's a good statement. Now, one thing that my personal belief on that, um, about like remaining silent, or the silent treatment, as they call it. Um, I always, whenever I hear that, I always go back to my first lawsuit against the police for false arrest, where the judge found in the favor of the police. He said in his ruling that because I remained silent, um, I had the opportunity to basically clear myself, and I didn't take that opportunity. And that was one of the things that the judge ruled against me, and I lost that lawsuit, was because I remained silent. So I'll go into that in my how-to video about my personal belief on remaining silent. Um, it it can't always work in your favor, and I'll get into that in my upcoming video series. But I'm not going to suggest that anyone not uh, use that right. But what I am going to cover is um, what the potential consequences are for remaining silent. I'm not going to discourage anyone from doing it. I'm just going to put it out there that there are potential consequences for it. And a lot of these things you'd never think until you go through the whole process of suing the police and losing. Because I got a judge's decision in writing about how that hurt me. Remaining silent hurt me. It hurt my case. It shouldn't have. But again, there's case law in the states about it. The Supreme Court's ruled that you shouldn't talk to the police, and you shouldn't answer their questions. But we don't have that in Canada. You have the right to remain silent, but we don't have a Supreme Court ruling that says you shouldn't, or whatever. So it's just kind of interesting that um, and that may be something that you or someone else in Canada has never considered, and that's one thing that I'm going to go into about doing this First Amendment audit style thing in Canada is what the potential consequences are for this whole silent treatment thing, and whether or not that's going to help you or hurt you. Yeah. Mad grumpy man. Nice comment there. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die one day. That's a good one. Sorry, I'm a little behind on the chat here. I don't have any notes or anything that I'm going off of, so it's kind of hard to concentrate on staying on topic while reading the chat. So I'm just going to take some brief breaks to read the chat. Whatever happened to running up to a camera and saying, "Hi, Mom"? That's a good one there, Oscar Orville. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. I know when I went to the uh, police department that had all my cameras and cell phone seized when I went to pick them up. Um, when I was being criminally prosecuted, they had to disclose a lot of their exterior cameras, and so if I didn't know where their exterior cameras were before, I know where they are now. And when I went in there to retrieve all my property, I gave them all the cameras a little wave. Oh, that's cool. That's good for you, Mad Grumpy Man, about your family court battle there. I give myself permission. Right on. Uh, yeah. Yeah. The cops always use that angle on citizens. If you have nothing to hide, let me search the car. But they sure as hell do not like the same rules for them. That is a tyrant. Yeah. That's a good comment there, Mad Grumpy Man. Yeah. Remaining silent is tricky. Yeah. Yeah. That's almost perfect, Lady Zaga. You can't remain silent. You can only answer question with a question. That's that's good. I like that. And then you're not remaining silent. um, so Lady Zaga says, so you practice your remaining silent with answers. Um, Not remaining silent is tricky, as you said earlier, but there's a difference between remaining silent just to do the silent treatment and remaining silent to not incriminate yourself. So I think what a lot of guys, excuse me, a lot of First Amendment auditors do is they do the silent treatment where they're just not going to say anything. And to me, that's different from remaining silent but still answering some questions. So, like for example, if you're recording somewhere and the police are asking you questions, right? Like they might say, what's the purpose of you being here?" And you might say, "I'm here to video record in public." There's nothing wrong with answering that. And I find in my experience that when you answer a question like that, they tend to get comfortable with asking you more questions about it. And they tend to repeat the questions, which is great because if you're recording that, they answer a question, you answer it, they ask it again, you answer it again, they ask it again, you answer it again, you ask it again, they ask it again, you answer it again, and it goes on and on and on. And if this ever goes to court and a judge sees that they asked you a question and you answered it and they ask it again and you answer it again and they ask it again and they answer it again, a lot of times they're going to say, well, he wouldn't give any answer or reason to why he was doing this. And the judge will be like, no, you asked 7 times and he answered 7 times. So to me, the silent treatment isn't an option. Remaining silent, to me, is really something I might do uh, after, say, after I get arrested. But if I'm just talking with the police about public photography, I'm basically going to answer all their questions. Um, and they're basically going to get comfortable with asking the same question over and over again. And I'm just going to keep answering. I'm going to answer their questions. And it doesn't make them look good when this all when it all ends, and whatever happens happens, whether it ends good or it ends bad. The video that you're going to have of them asking you the same question and you answering the same question over and over again, it's not going to make them look good. Trust me. A lot of questions, a lot of comments here. Choose your answers wisely. Yeah. Choose your questions wisely. Yeah. The case law you're thinking of, me, my drone, and I, is Rice versus Connolly. That's where I know the judge's name too, but I just forgot it. But he said that although citizens have a duty or perhaps a moral duty to answer any questions put to them by police, the common law has never said that they have a legal duty to answer any questions put to them by police or anyone in authority, I think, or something like that. That's the case law you're referring to. It's called Rice versus Connolly. Yeah, and you're not obligated to go anywhere with them against your will, unless you're under arrest. You know, if they say you're not under arrest, but can you come down to the police station and write a statement or fill out a thing or whatever, or answer questions or whatever, you're not obligated to. You have to be arrested, and of course, to be arrested, you have to be either um, found committing an offense, or you may about to be committing an offense, or they have a warrant for your arrest. Lots of old dudes. Lots of old. Lots of old dudes on here. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, most of the people that are into this whole thing, like with First Amendment audits or similar stuff in Canada, are sort of older people. There's not a lot of younger people jumping on board with this right now, and hopefully that changes. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. Robert Morin, perfect comment there. Once the police have their jaws locked on, they don't let go. They're vicious. They would not have changed their minds if you explained your innocence to them. The judge knows that. That's exactly right. Yeah. So that's one thing you really have to be careful of is um, when you do talk to the police is uh, sort of arguing law or whatever. Once they've made up their mind, there's nothing that you can say that's going to change their mind. So um, your safest bet is to just let them double down on dumb and let them do what they got to do, and don't put up a screaming match or a hissy fit or fisticuffs, because that's never going to end in your favor. Um, in an ideal situation like that is you are being calm and cool and they are not, and that's being recorded, and that's going to be used in court, ideally. Yeah. Yeah, I'm subscribed to high impact vlogs as well. That's a great channel. Yeah. Then they say you're suspicious. Yeah. And that's one thing I'm going to get into in my sort of how to First Amendment audit in Canada audio video. Um, the whole thing about being suspicious and all that. I've got some great information coming on that. Um, won't go into spoiler territory. Yeah, that's right. Me, my drone, and I, they repeat their questions and hope that you'll contradict yourself. And I actually found a great way around that. I won't get into it here because that is spoilers territory, but I definitely cover that in my how to First Amendment audit in Canada audio video. Is they will do exactly that. They're going to repeat their exact same questions and hope that you're going to give a different answer to the third time or the fifth time or the 12th time. And I actually have a excellent method to get around that, to where they can't even do that to you, and if they do, they're going to look even worse. So um yeah, you're definitely right. That's definitely what they do. And my material, my information will sort of arm you with something that is just going to throw that option out the window for them. They're not even going to really have that option. And if they keep doubling down on it, they're going to look so stupid. So, yeah, that's coming. Yeah. Am I obligated to answer your questions? That's a good one, Tongma. Lots of old guys in here, eh? Huh. I'm 44, so I'm getting there. That's I don't think I've seen that Lady Saga where you say I like the answer from the Chicago guy. I am not suspicious. I'm mysterious. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, I guess being mysterious is better than being suspicious, right? That's funny. Yeah. Thanks, Tongma. Yeah, give a thumbs up if you wanna. I'm not too subscribers and all that stuff isn't really a big thing for me. My main channel, Not So Silent, I don't monetize. As I said earlier, the videos I make, I don't make them because I want to. I make them because I have to. This channel is actually my backup channel, and I did monetize this one because it was kind of weird. I started this backup channel just to have something in place in case my main channel, Not So Silent, went down or whatever. And so I just started uploading my old videos on this channel a couple of years ago. And I don't usually do any kind of self-promotion thing, or uh, I don't really go for subscribers or thumbs up or whatever or shares. I just post videos, and if people like it, great. And if they don't, oh well. And so when I started this channel, I was just uploading old videos, and I think it was the second or third video that I posted on this channel. It went viral. I was like, "Whoa!" Um, it's actually that video is actually my highest viewed video out of all my YouTube channels. Being on YouTube for almost 10 years now. There's a video on this channel. I think it's called "Man Serves Criminal Cop as Subpoena." Man, no, it's "Man Falsely Arrested Serves Criminal Cop a Subpoena" or something like that. Anyways, it's just under 2 million views, and which is just hilarious because I was just like, oh, it's just a backup channel. Throw all my old videos on there, and 1.9 million views, just under 2 million. It's like most established First Amendment audit channels don't even have a video with that many views, like News Now Houston or High Desert Community Watch. I don't even think they have a video themselves that has 1.9 million views. So it's kind of funny that this backup channel just went viral on its own without me even plugging it or pushing it or anything. So I was talking about monetization, and um, on my main channel, Not So Silent, as I said, I don't make those videos because I want to. I make them because I have to, and I don't monetize that channel. But this one I did because it went viral, and because I've also uh, sued the police and lost, basically because of a corrupt judge. And if you've seen the video on that, I expose where the police officer intentionally misled prosecutors to get a warrant for my arrest. And I presented that evidence in court, and the judge ruled that there was no evidence of it, which is just hilarious because the police officer wrote a report about a phone call that we had. And when I played the phone call in court, the phone call contradicted what the police officer said. And the judge said that that was no evidence. So I lost that lawsuit. I could have appealed it, um, but it just there was another lawsuit pending, and there was so much going on that I just decided to leave it and just pay their court costs. Um, I had the money, I'm a hardworking. Uh, I make I pay too much taxes for any kind of benefits for a free lawyer and all that stuff. So um, I had to kind of just let it go and just cut my losses and get out of it and go on to the next. Um, but the beautiful thing about that is I had the ability to expose the bullshit and what the judge had ruled on as no evidence. To me, that was a win in itself. If you can expose corruption, that is a win. I didn't sue because I wanted money or because I needed money. I was suing so I could expose corruption. And even losing the lawsuit and having to pay their legal costs, I still exposed corruption. So to me, that's still a win. Well, that's the thing, Lady Zaga, is as I said before, I don't make these videos because I want to. I don't make these videos for to get a bunch of subscribers. I don't make these videos for a bunch of clicks and views. I make these videos because I have to, because I have the ability to show people how the system really works, and um, I just feel it's necessary to publish that material so that maybe the people in our generation might not get it, but maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, people will see um, what people are doing on YouTube right now, and they're going to be a lot better prepared for how the system works in their time than we could ever be prepared for how the system works in our time. And that's one of the main reasons why I make these videos. Is I don't do it for the instant gratification, for the money, for whatever, for what's relevant now. I do it for mainly so that people can take this information and be informed themselves without having to go through all the BS that I had to go through. And if they do have to go through that BS, they're going to know what to expect, and they're going to know to expect the unexpected. Let me say that, because when you walk in and expect things to go a certain way, um, chances are they're not going to go that way, and you have to be prepared for that. Yeah, like one thing I always tell people is um, never go into to court with a script. Never say I'm going to say this or I'm going to do this. You have to think on your feet. You have to when they railroad you, and they always do. You have to be open to what your options are at that point, and you have to figure out what you're going to do at that point. So if you just walk into court with a script, say I'm gonna read this or I'm gonna say this, and they railroad you, you can't even read your script, you can't even say your thing you're gonna say. What are you gonna do now, right? So, um, anyways, that's why this channel is monetized. A, because some of the videos went viral, and B, it's to help recover my costs for fighting local corruption in court, um, and exposing local corruption, because I don't call it a loss. Um, I call it a cost. So there's a cost, as we all know, there's a cost for freedom, and that's my cost for this, and I may never recuperate those costs completely, but that's why this channel is monetized, is to help recoup some of those costs. Um, I would definitely say that if I ever do recoup those costs, I would probably unmonetize this channel and turn monetization off. But it's interesting because just did the yearly income tax, And of course, I had to pay tax on the monetization from the last year. And wow, it's almost not even worth it. It's almost not even. I mean, it is, but um, the money that I got from the monetization, a lot of that just went to income tax. So if you're someone who's thinking of starting a channel to do this kind of thing, and you want to get 1,000 subscribers and monetize and all that stuff, you might not make a lot of money off the monetization, and you're going to make even less after you get taxed on it. And if you evade that, and they catch you down the road after 5 years, that's really going to hurt you. So I'm hoping people that use my material do it for the right reasons. Don't do it for the wrong reasons. They don't do it to start uh, a platform for monetary gain. I know people will. I know there's already people doing that, and that's fine. But I that's just the way it goes, I guess. So Dave Hopkins has a bunch of YouTube channels here. Um, so when I first started watching First Amendment audits, a lot of the channels that are out now weren't around, and a lot of the channels that I was watching back then aren't really around now. Like I think one of the first ones I started watching was one called Max Tech Media. They dropped off the map a long time ago, but those were some of my First Amendment audit videos that I used to watch. Max Tech Media. Another one was First Amendment tests. That guy was really good. Brett Sanders used to be good. He doesn't do them anymore. Um, probably my probably my favorite First Amendment auditor is kind of like a tie between the Batosai, Philip Turner, and Jeff Gray, Honor Your Oath. Um, if all out of all the First Amendment audit channels, those two are definitely my favorite. If I had to pick one, I'd be like, I don't know. They're kind of tied for first place for me. But there's a lot of great channels out there now that never used to be when I first started watching First Amendment audits in like 2015. And it's just amazing how many people were doing it back then and aren't doing it now, and how many people are doing it now and weren't doing it back then. No spoilers. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying. Thanks for keeping the chat rolling there. Holy cow. I think I've had like 15 people in here max. It's a lot of chat for 15 people. So thank you. Jeesley Crow says, when I was 44, it was a blur. Oh, it's funny because now when like a younger person has a birthday and I go to say happy birthday, I'm like, how old are you? They're like, oh, I'm 32 or something. I'm like, "Oh, I remember way back when I was 32, which is true. Wow. 76 bucks for 4 packs of smokes. Wow. That's I quit smoking cigarettes when in 2002, and I think there were like 7 or 8 bucks a pack or something. That was quitting cigarettes was definitely one of the hardest things in my life ever. Um, I've been blessed with an easy life. Don't I ain't gonna try to fool anyone about that, but uh, I've in life I've been very lucky and very blessed. And fortunately for me, one of the hardest things in my life was quitting smoking cigarettes. I think I did it on my third attempt too. That was in 2002. But I can't imagine paying what y'all are paying today for was like between $10 and $13 for a pack of cigarettes or something. That's just crazy, especially considering like what do you really get out of cigarettes? What do you really get out of nicotine? You know, you get you get a fix for an addiction. That's all you get, and it never ends. And the costs, the benefit, the risk, the reward, not worth it at all. Yeah, no worries, G. Crow. Yeah, no, no disrespect taken. Dave Hopkins says, "I wish we had a Second Amendment in Canada. Most people don't know it's to protect people from the government." Yeah. Um, Interesting topic. Not really something that I focus on my channel about guns or anything like that. But one thing I will say is I am glad that not everyone carries guns because not everyone should be carrying a gun. I'll just leave it at that. Reefer madness. Yeah, Dave Hopkins says, and then there is Eric Brandt. Does anyone know what's going on with him? Is he still like in custody or something? I follow so many channels. that it's hard to really keep up with a lot of people just because there's so much content posted every day related to First Amendment audits, and I follow well over 100 channels, well over, like, maybe close to 200 channels, just First Amendment auditors, and the couple of Canadian people doing it too. There's definitely nowadays there's definitely more First Amendment audit videos posted in a day than I could possibly watch. So I kind of have to pick and choose which videos I'm going to watch or which channels I'm going to follow. Obviously, someone's going to have some really great content that's just going to kind of come out of nowhere. Um, I saw a good one the other day. There's a whole thing going on in Seattle there with Record America, cameras everywhere, and what was the other guy's channel? Uh, he just posted a long video on it. Shoot, I can't remember the guy's. But it's about them doing a Freedom of Information Act request at the Seattle Lighting, I think. Wow, it's a great video. I'm going to see if I can find that other channel's name real quick. Surveyor Raw. And I just posted the link to the video in the chat if you want to check it out. Those are this video, these are really the videos I really like, where it's not just somebody doing like an audit or whatever. It's more follow-up than anything, and it really goes into what they tried to do, what the reaction was, what the result was, and they really go through it in great detail. Those are the videos I really like. There's another channel that recently um, promoted another channel. You guys may have heard of a channel called Disorderly Product News, and that guy's relatively new. And he was recently promoting another channel of a guy in California named with a channel called Michael A. And his real name is Michael Alexander. He's got the video that he put up a few years ago where he's in court. He put up the court video. He's in court in the 90s, and the video is called I Arrested the DA. That guy was huge inspiration to me back in 2015 when I first started my channel. If you haven't seen that guy, Michael A, just search in YouTube, "I arrest the DA." Yeah, that's true. Extortion watchers who said auditors have always been around. YouTube made it a big thing, though. Yeah, and that's true because yeah, like we all hear about that 2010 DHS memo. A lot of guys refer to that, have been referring to that over the last couple of years. And really, in 2010, there wasn't really anyone doing specifically a First Amendment audit. But that guy who is basically responsible for um, that that memo being put out, he was documenting. He was his own local independent media. He wasn't a First Amendment auditor. He was documenting a protester, a guy who was basically handing out information on jury nullification. And when he went to go film this guy protesting and handing out the information, he got arrested, and he had like a hidden camera on his belt, and so that's where that DHS memo released in 2010. That was the result of that, because he was, I think, criminally prosecuted, or maybe the charges got dropped. But then there was a lawsuit, and it was the result of that lawsuit. Uh, that's where that 2010 DHS memo came from that almost everyone refers to now, which was apparently re-released in 2018, if I have that right. Yeah, you're right there, Jeesley Crow. Rodney King was really the beginning of filming cops and cop watching. Um, and that guy that filmed that actually was, I think, part of the First Amendment auditing community for a little while. Um, I forget his name. I think he was kind of buddies with Tom Zebra for a while too. Um, I forget his name, but yeah, that guy that filmed it, he kind of he was in this community for a while, and then he might have said something or done something wrong, and we all know how that goes. We've all seen that. That's another thing in 2018 when I was working on this material that I got arrested for, and that you're going to see me release over the next couple of months. Um, there weren't any First Amendment auditors that were kind of at each other and arguing with each other, or exposing each other, or doing all this, which comes kind of seems to be the norm now. Everybody used to get along, and everybody used to be friends. And I can't believe how many people, how many channels are enemies with each other. It's like if you watch them all and you follow them all, you know that they don't all like each other, and they don't all support each other, and some of them will do anything to discredit the other or whatever. And that's it's it's just really interesting that back when I was doing this material that I got arrested for, none of that was happening. That was everybody got along, and we were all on the same team. And now it's the normal that channels that have the same sort of uh, ideals, concepts, and goals, they just hate each other now, and it's kind of sucks. I think it's pretty sad, and I think a lot of things have changed since I started the material that I got arrested for. It's actually amazing how many things have changed in the First Amendment auditing community. Um, One of the things that I noticed uh, when I was going through some of my material that I just got my cameras back earlier this week, 3 days ago, um, was that I forgot what I was going to say there. um, Shoot. All right, I'm going to take some time to go through the chat. That's what distracted me. I looked at the chat and then I lost my train of thought there. Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. So when I first started working on my material in 2018 that I was going to publish about all this stuff, doing this in Canada, um, people weren't doing private businesses. People weren't auditing, um, you know, local businesses. Um, there was only police stations, jails, prisons, military bases, post office, refineries, things like that. And now people are just auditing any old thing anywhere. And that's one thing I noticed that I didn't mention in my how to audio video on how to do a First Amendment audit in Canada is I never mentioned anything about private businesses, and that's because people weren't doing them in 2018, or at least I wasn't watching. I didn't see that anyways. I mean, it was definitely a thing shortly after that, and now you see people are auditing private businesses and things that have nothing to do with government whatsoever. Um, my personal thoughts on that is as just a complete waste of time because all your auditing, all you're really doing is you're basically putting out videos that show that some people are assholes. Like who cares? Like you could go anywhere with a camera and you're going to find someone that doesn't want to be on your camera. Like what kind of freedom are you fighting for? It just doesn't make any sense to me. People that are auditing private businesses. My opinion is that it should always be uh, directly related to government, like police and prisons and courts, uh, places like that. It shouldn't be you know McDonald's or uh, Canadian Tire or whatever, right? Uh, I think people do that because it's easy to do. People don't want to do the hard stuff. Um, and I'll get into that. I'm tiptoeing on spoiler material here, but I got a lot to say about people that are in it for the wrong reasons. And I'll leave it at that. And I got some good material coming on that. Yeah, exactly. Oscar Orville. He says, public entities only. I don't care about Joe's muffler shop does. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a muffler shop. Perfect. Perfect. Um, and like another thing on that too is like, if I get arrested filming on a sidewalk, a police station, and I get criminally prosecuted, and my cameras and cell phone are seized for almost 2 years, what the hell are you auditing a muffler shop for? You could be I mean, if you're really serious about this, if you really are in it for the right reasons, you need to be going to police stations. You need to be going to courthouses. You need to be going to government buildings and filming on the sidewalk. I'll go into some of the legalities of going in or staying outside in my upcoming material, but if people are still getting arrested on a sidewalk for filming a police station, then the muffler shops can wait. The muffler shops can wait, folks. You need to do this at a police station. You need to do this at a courthouse. You need to do this at a prison. You need to do this somewhere government related. And that's all I'm going to say on that for now. Yeah, and exactly. Telling about freedom to see and film in public. You can edit out those who object if appropriate. I know in my series that I made on this in 2018, there's a lot of people that are filmed inadvertently or incidentally, and not many people know that I'm actually filming. And if I ever have someone who is with kids or something, I would just cut that part out. Um, I don't really. I mean, I'll get. I'm tiptoeing and spoiling material again here, but I think you need to be careful with what you are trying to pass off as rights. Yeah, going into spoiling material here, but you really need to think about why you're doing this and what's appropriate for you to do. If you think uh, scaring women and children for your right to film in public is going to move this community forward, I think you're in it for the wrong reasons. You shouldn't be relying on reactions like that to post on your YouTube channel. You definitely, if that's what you're doing, you're definitely in it for the wrong reasons. Yeah, stores. Yeah, exactly. Not mom and pop stores. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tongwa says most of those who audit businesses make sure they are government contractors. Well, yeah, you're right. But I mean, some people say, well, the muffler shop is a government contractor because they put a muffler on a government vehicle. So to me, that's you're not auditing the government by auditing their muffler shop. A refinery, or say like in British Columbia, we have crown corporations like BC Hydro. That would be the government, in my opinion. Or like things like our car insurance is regulated by ICBC, or the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. That's a government, uh, a crown corporation. Um, places like that. But like the muffler shop that works on government vehicles, total waste of time. Anyone doing that's totally in this for the wrong reasons. That's all I'll say on that for now. Yeah. Yeah. Disorderly Product News calls him the unicorn of law. Yeah, exactly. Jeesley Crow. Yeah. Dave Hopkins says in California Penal Code 148 subsection G, filming in public can't be deemed as suspicious. Um, yeah, which works great in California, but we don't have that in Canada, of course. And Yeah, which is great for California, of course, because the only reason why that penal code exists, 148.g, is because it's obviously been an issue where uh, police would rather waste time with photographers than with actually pursuing legitimate, real criminals. And that's why that penal code exists. Yeah. Big oil and war industry have hidden contracts. Yeah. Well, I'm sure. Yeah. So anybody have any questions? Go ahead and shoot. I've been doing this for about 2.5 hours now, so I'll probably be shutting this down. Um, Not right away, but um, I think 3 hours is probably going to be my cap. What law covers suspicion? That's a great question, Tongma. I wouldn't necessarily call it a law, but there is case law. Um, I don't want to go into some of the more lesser known case law on suspicion, but probably the biggest and best known one is R versus Moore. Moore, I believe, spelled Moore, and that was based on a gentleman who was riding his bicycle. It's actually here in Victoria where I live. He was riding his bicycle out on the streets, and it doesn't have to do with suspicion. It has to do with when you have to ID, which is sort of similar-ish thing. And I do have stuff on suspicion. I just don't want to put it out there now. And then I've waited this long. I don't want to put huge spoilers out on the live stream. But anyways, R versus Moore is about a gentleman. It's about when you have to ID in Canada, and it's about a gentleman who's riding his bicycle on the streets here in Victoria, where I live, and he allegedly ran a stop sign or a stoplight or something. And a police officer witnessed him do this, and the police officer stopped him and wanted to issue him a ticket. And Mr. Moore decided not to provide his identification, and the police officer ended up arresting Mr. Moore for obstructing police because Mr. Moore was alleged to have obstruct the police in issuing a ticket because he refused to provide his identification. And so basically what that case law is about, that's basically Canada's Terry versus Ohio. If you've ever heard anyone say, and I have heard someone say this recently, that Canada doesn't have that type of case law, well, we do. We've always had it. So if anyone says we don't have it, don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. Um, so Mr. Moore was convicted of obstructing police because the police um, watched him commit an offense and were going to issue him a ticket for that offense, and he refused to provide his identification. And that's um, sort of the number one case law that we have in Canada as far as producing ID. Not necessarily deals with suspicion, but as I said, I'll get into that when I release my material. Um, but yeah, just going to jump on the chat here now. Corruption has been out for decades. Thank you. Pray for your safety. Thank you, Tongwa. Watch Cops in Surrey, BC. Have not published yet. That's right. Dave Hopkins says, I watch Cops in Surrey, BC. Have not published yet. Crooked RCMP will be gone soon as they're getting a new force. They're actually switching over to municipal police. All cops should have body cams. They can't turn off. Yeah, exactly. Only Calgary has them, I think. And I think you're right. Only Calgary in the province of Alberta. Do the police wear body cams? That's so far. I think you're right. I think that's the only place in Canada that actually has them. Last year, yeah, yeah. Suspicion is not against the law. So yeah, Dave Hopkins says suspicious is not against the law, and you're absolutely right on that. Suspicion is not against the law, but arbitrarily arresting a citizen for hurting your feelings also isn't against the law, if you know what I'm saying, Dave. So yes, you absolutely have a point there, but on the flip side, um, if you hurt a police officer's feelings and they think you're suspicious and they arrest you and seize your property and put you through the grinder for almost 2 years, um, that's not against the law either, technically. And I'll have more on that on my series coming out. Little spoiler there. Mad Grumpy Man says he was on Pender many years ago for a season. Cool. That's Pender Island in the Gulf Islands. Um, then the Gulf Islands are very special place here in British Columbia. Very beautiful, very small islands, limited amount of people and services on those islands. Very tourist driven, seasonally driven. Uh, Anytime I get a chance to go visit the Gulf Islands, um, absolutely love going. Um, my hobby before getting into all this nonsense was hiking and fishing, so totally down to go for any kind of trip to the Gulf Islands. I think Galliano is probably my favorite. There's a provincial park campsite at the very north end of Galliano Island. Um, just an amazing beach. You can't actually get there by car. You have to. It's a marine access only, so you can drive your boat there and stuff your boat up on the beach and actually camp there overnight. Just amazing. I could go there any day of the year and just love it, no matter the weather. Oh, it's called it's an Italian name, DiCiano Diaci DiCiano Park. Here, I'll Google it here briefly. Here, Dionisio. That's what it's called. I just put in the chat. Dionisio Park, Galliano Island. Just an amazing. The Gulf Islands are so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, the Gulf Islands are very special here. Halibut, yeah. I I only do shore fishing. I don't own a boat. Um, I'm really big on hiking. Um, I got uh, a back injury at work in 2011, which kind of got me into hiking, and hiking got me into fishing. And so I really only do shore fishing. There's lots of lakes here, as you probably know, um, and there's endless coastline. So I used to go fishing a lot when I was a kid with my dad and my brother. And as I got into early teens, things like fishing kind of went to the wayside, and hormones and everything kicks in, and your priorities change as a human being. But I then got back into fishing just recently. Well, I shouldn't say recently. In 2012, when I had that, shortly after I had that back injury, and man, I once I got back into it, I couldn't get enough of it. I'd go fishing like twice, at least twice a week. Like I'd get up and go fishing before work, and I'd spend like my whole weekend fishing. I'd spend my whole vacation fishing. I still do. I still, even to this day, like this year, my entire vacation is just going to be fishing locally, staycation. I'm really lucky where I live on Vancouver Island. Um, I live in a place that's so beautiful um, with for hiking and fishing and just being outdoors that I don't need to go anywhere on vacation, and I'm just really lucky to live here in a place where I can do that. But yeah, halibut's great. But that is one fish you're very unlikely to catch from shore. I know a couple of people who have stories about hooking into them from shore, but never landing them. Mainly what I catch in the ocean, number one on my list, always has been, always will be, is Chinook salmon or spring salmon, as we also call them here. In the States or in some places, other places, they're called king salmon. Um, Man, you hook into one of those while fishing from the rocks, and you will never have another fishing experience like that in your life. A lot of people are into fly fishing and steelheading and all that stuff here. Um, for me, I don't do any kind of river fishing. The river fishing regulations are so strict here; it basically keeps everyone out, unless you're already a fly fisherman, which I'm not. Um, so for me, that's the number one experience that I always look forward to every summer. That's the other thing too, is you can't just shore fish for salmon all year round. They mainly only go through here in in numbers in the months of July and August. So if you're not out there fishing on the shore in July and August, you're probably not going to catch any. And there's rockfish here, lingcod for saltwater. There's lots of fish here. We got lots of Great Lakes too. They're all stocked. They all have smallmouth bass. A lot of them have largemouth bass now. We've got a great trout stocking program for our urban lakes. So if you like to take kids or disabled or elderly people fishing, there's fishing docks. Your freshwater license that you pay annually, all of that, 100% of that money goes into restocking lakes with trout, rainbow trout, or the building of docks for kids and elderly and disabled. I mean, anyone can fish from the docks, but they're all wheelchair accessible. It's a great way to get kids into fishing too. So before I go, can you guys in the chat Tell me, who is your what channels do you like to watch the most? Say like your top 5, and they don't have to be First Amendment audit channels or even auditing in Canada. They could be anything. Um, if you wouldn't mind, just take the time to just type it in the chat. What's your top 5 favorite YouTube channels? Or if you don't have 5, whatever. Or if you got more than 5, whatever. I'm way behind on the chat here. Hey, yeah, Tongma. Actually, we have here on Vancouver Island. There's one lake nearby here in Victoria. It's kind of like a man-made or a man-modified lake, I should say. And there's all the fish in there are all introduced. A lot of people use the word invasive. I like to say introduced because they've all been put there by humans. So yeah, they're all like largemouth bass, smallmouth bass. There's a type of catfish called a brown bullhead. Um, there's stocked rainbow trout, and we do have carp, as you mentioned in one of your comments here. And that was one of my favorite fisheries for a while. Was carp fishing. That's an amazing freshwater fish because like most of the freshwater fish here, they're about the size of your hand. You just reel them in, do nothing really special. But man, you hook into a carp and you're in for a fight. That's a lot of people hate them. A lot of people just want to catch them and kill them, which I don't agree with. I think that because they're in a man modified system and they're contained in that system, and the rest of the fish are all introduced for sport fishing. My personal opinion is that they should be released once caught because they create such an amazing catch and release experience. If they were in like a natural system, like a river where salmon spawn, I'd be like, yeah, totally kill them and eradicate them or whatever. But if they're in a man-made or man-modified lake and every other fish species is introduced, then why not do catch and release, and why not continue having great fishing experiences? Yeah, beauty everywhere on Vancouver Island. Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, that's why I don't need to go anywhere on vacation because I live on Vancouver Island. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, where are you going on vacation?" And I'm like, "The next town over." I don't need to go to Mexico. I don't need to go anywhere tropical. I mean, it's not tropical here, don't get me wrong. It certainly is semi-tropical in the summer. It can get pretty hot here, but I never feel the need to go to Hawaii or Mexico or anywhere. I just absolutely love it here. And I can spend my whole vacation here. I got no shortage of places to go and fish to target, freshwater, saltwater. It's great. Yeah, see, it's like carp, like I said, carp in a natural system, no good. If they're in a contained system with a bunch of other introduced fish, who cares? Just catch and release, have fun. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. And Oscar Orville says this was very informative. Couple of hours. Thanks. Well, this was very no spoilers couple of hours. So if you thought the no spoilers live stream was informative, wait till you see the material that I have, and wait till you see 10-part series that's going to come out where I didn't even make it to 10 parts. I just got arrested, had all my gear seized, and had to face the criminal prosecution or Canadian justice system for standing on a public sidewalk and doing public photography. That's going to be very informative. Cool. Well, thanks for typing out a few responses there for your favorite channels there, guys and gals. Dave Hopkins says Clash with Bow channel is great. XVet. Mad Grumpy Man says high impact flicks vlogs. Last American Vagabond Operation. Freedom the Amazing. Polly Ron Paul. Dave Hopkins says, oh, and Johnny 50. Johnny 50 is a really good channel. Oscar Orville says, High Desert, Orange Man, 360 Audits, Pug Life, News Now Community. Can hardly wait. Yeah, unfortunately, 360 or it's Calgary 360 Audits. A gal has seemed to have shut down. I know I've spoken with her over the internet, and I don't want to speak for her, but I don't think her channel is going to be coming back. I don't think there's going to be any new material. I don't think she's going to be going out and doing audits anymore, unfortunately. And I got to say, out of all the Canadian channels that are doing First Amendment style audits, Calgary 360 was definitely the most accurate channel out there as far as doing this in Canada. And she provided some great videos that were just strictly informative. I remember she did a couple of videos on I think it was like trespassing or causing a disturbance, or like some of the laws, some of the criminal codes in Canada. She went over and put out a lot of information on that, and I love watching that stuff. People that actually put out information. Um, can't be that. People, anyone can hold a camera and walk around with it. Not everyone can put out information. Big difference. Tongwa watches my sites. Right on. News Now Houston Unity. John E. Hoover. I'll have to check that one out. I'm not sure who that is. Crossroads with Joshua Phillip. I think I heard of that. Still Report. I'll have to check that out. Larry Elder with Epoch Times. I've heard of that. Yeah. Uh, yeah, that is unfortunate. She was really cool. We're talking about Calgary 360 Audits. That was, I guess that was technically the first uh, established Canadian channel that was actually published. I actually um, started recording my material before her channel came out. But as I said, as far as Canadian channels, she was definitely the most accurate as far as Canadian laws and rights and freedoms and all that. And I'm assuming you guys are all subscribed to Canadian Rights Media. He's been around for a while. now. Yes, Mad Grumpy Man. I have been waiting a while. If you check out my most recent video, that's on this channel and my main channel, Not So Silent. Um, Everything comes to he who waits, and I have waited so very long for this moment. Waited very, very long. And that's another reason why I don't want to do any spoilers here in this live stream, is because I want you guys to see my material as I intended it to be published, and how you should see it from the beginning to the end. And I don't want to just overload you guys with material and check this out and check that out and do, and then no one ever comes back, and no one cares about a follow-up if they're just thrown all this material all at once. So that's one of the things I want you guys to do, is to um, be able to follow my material. Like, you're gonna, like I said earlier, when you're watching my material that I'm gonna put out, you're basically gonna be in the passenger seat, and you're gonna be alongside me when I go to court, and you're going to be right there with me, not in court, but like when I had to go to court for any court appearance. Either I made, or my associate Bruce Dean helped me make a video of that day in court, as we're standing outside. We're either about to go into court, or we just came out of court, or we made a video on both going in and then coming out. So you're basically going to be sitting in the passenger seat with me, and I'm going to take you on a tour through the Canadian justice system, and what happens when you get arrested and your property gets seized and you get criminally prosecuted for public photography in Canada. So yeah, I have been waiting a while. It's almost been 2 years. Um, what is it? May, June, July. It's basically 2 months short of 2 years. So 22 months I've been waiting to publish this material. Oh, cool. Dave Hopkins, you're in Maple Ridge, BC. Right on. The mainland, as we call it here. Well, guys, gals, it's been 3 hours. Um, I was hoping to get the word out there about this. Not many people showed up. I think I maxed out at 15 people at once. So it's all good. Like I said, I don't do this for views or clicks or likes or whatever. So, or subs. I don't really care. You can subscribe if you want. If you don't want to, I don't really care. I'm still gonna put out this material, not because I want to, but because I have to. So you subscribing or liking or sharing doesn't really matter to me if you do or not. Um, but yeah, I think you're gonna want to stay tuned. You're gonna want to see the material. You're gonna want to see what happens when you hurt a police officer's feelings in Canada. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna sign off now, folks. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Just remember, there's nothing coming out tomorrow. It's not going to be next week. It's not going to be in 2 weeks. It's probably going to be at least a month. Some of my cameras that I retrieved from the police 3 days ago, I still haven't even plugged them in to look at what's on or on them yet. Um, There was one camera that I did go through where some material was missing, and I thought that they had deleted it, and it turns out that they didn't delete it. It turns out that their tech guy wasn't very good at going through cameras. So there's some stuff on there that they were hoping that they could get a court order to delete off my camera so that I wouldn't have it. And it turns out it is on my camera. Um, I'm tiptoeing into a spoiler material here, but there's some very interesting footage that I thought was deleted, and it's there. So very interesting. So like or don't, subscribe or don't, share or don't. I don't really care because, as I said, I don't make these videos because I want to. I make them because I have to. And um, it's very important to me. Um, People that live in a free democratic society are treated as free persons. And one of the things that I believe can really uh, harm that is not only law enforcement tyranny by law enforcement, but it's also by people, um, by free citizens who choose not to be informed and who choose to ignore their rights and freedoms and who choose to believe that they don't that those rights and freedoms aren't really all that important to them because the government knows what's right for you, and the government is going to decide what your rights and freedoms should be. And those people are just as harmful to freedom in a free democratic society as uh, a tyrannical government. So hopefully we can make some changes to that and show people that the uninformed are part of the problem, if not just as much of the problem as a tyrannical government. Mhm. Yeah. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and everyone that participated in the chat. Thank you. I guess I'll see you guys in about a month. Can't make any promises or any dates. Cheers. Yeah, thanks, Oscar Orville. Thank you, everyone. Cheers. Um, Hope everyone is staying safe during the self-isolation thingy. As I said earlier, I'm an essential worker, so I don't have a choice. I got to work my arse off every dang day. And weekends are very important to me. Um, Saltwater fishing just started, and it's going till the end of September. So a lot of my weekends, I'm going to try and get out for a hike and some fishing, and I'm going to try to work on this material as well. But it's not going to come quick. It's not going to be. It's not going to be tomorrow or next week. I'm just super busy with a lot of stuff, and the whole thing that I just went through with the criminal proceeding. Um, Although the criminal proceeding is over, there's still a lot more to work on from my end. So I'm going to be very busy with all that. So if you guys can just be patient, and I haven't given up. I haven't gone away. I'm here to stay, but some things are going to take time to get out there. So just keep that in mind. I don't film videos for to get a clip and then throw it on my YouTube channel. I like to make decent videos that I like to take my time and put my heart and soul into it. How about that? And that's what I'm gonna give to you guys. That's what you guys are gonna get out of me, and that's how I go about it. That's how I'm going to go about it. So I just want to say thanks to my associate, Bruce Dean. He popped in the chat earlier. He's got a channel called Professional Recreationalists. If you go through my videos, you'll see one, something like tyrant cops, something about a disabled guy on a mobility aid. And there's also another video I have about, I think it's the last video I have on a series called Police Complaints Process Exposed, or something like that. And Bruce Dean is featured in that last video as well. And his links to his channels are in those videos. And he was my backup cameraman for most of the series that I got arrested for filming in 2018, and I'm going to be publishing soon for you guys to see. So yeah, I just wanted to thank him. He's been a huge support. Most people around here don't really care about any kind of freedom thing. A lot of people in Canada are very complacent, and they think that the government and the police know what's best for us, and we should just do what they say, and whatever they say, we're going to do. And I'm sure you all have a difference of opinion on that, as do I. Right on. That's cool. So here, I'm going to end this. So thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for engaging. If you're just tuning in, feel free to watch it from the beginning. It's a 3-hour long live stream, so enjoy. And I have some material, like I said, in about a month. Yeah. Cool. So thanks again, folks. Appreciate you watching. I appreciate your cooperation. And looking forward to I'll probably do more live streams once I start publishing material, and try to see what your guys' reactions is to it. You can tell me I did a good job or a horrible job, or I wasted your time, or whatever you like. Sound good? All right. Thanks again. Appreciate it. And keep your eye out. Like I said, in about a month, should have some material start posting. And once I start posting it, it's going to kind of keep coming a little quicker and quicker once I've gone through all the material and done all the editing stuff. Thanks again, folks. Take care.